It's kind of like theme. It's kind of together. All right. So this was the packet that you were supposed to have read. I wanted you look. I wanted you to read all of them. I wanted you to read all of them, all 13 pages. Okay. I picked 3 that you found the most interesting. Um, I picked 1 from each category, but you could pick 3 from one category, or 2, or 1 from different category from each different category, whatever you wanted. Okay. And then I want you to you should annotate the poem so you know what it is that you want to talk about with the poem. Okay. And so here are the 3 that I'm going to do. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about, for the first poem, I'm going to talk about what they don't want you to know. Okay. And to me, I think this the main I think element that I'm going to discuss for this poem would be, oh, here we go. Yeah. Ooh. Theme. Okay. Let's read the poem first. Your hips will try to burst through your skin. Your thighs will try to grow together like a mermaid's tail. A soft garden will try to sprout on your legs, between your legs, on your upper lip, on your armpits, etc. No, you are not just here to be sexy for him. The road begins and ends when you say so. I really like this poem a lot. I like it for a couple of different reasons. One, I like the body positivity of it, where look, your hips, they will try to burst. Okay. As in meaning they will get wide. Not like a Barbie. Unlike a Barbie, I guess. So your natural bones, your frame, all right, frame, something that you have no control over. The frame, your frame will expand. There is no controlling bone bones doing what bones are supposed to be doing. Okay. My bones did not get very long, which is why I am short. I am 5'6". On my license it says 5'8" because I'm a liar. But hey, rhymes with buyers. Buyers, a liar. Okay. But that's nothing that I can do. So there are people who are naturally really tall. And tall people should be humble, because the same way in which I did nothing to be short, they did nothing to be tall. So while they should not think that they are better than everyone else because they're tall, I should not feel that I am less than or inferior to people because I am short. Because neither one of us did anything to earn or to be punished by our frame. It just is, it's natural genetics. That's all it is. So, your hips, for some of you women out there, your hips are going to try to burst. Some women have much wider hips. Some women, they have, I've had plenty of students who are small, little pencil frames. I mean, they will start freshman year and they will end senior year looking almost exactly the same. Okay. But I know that many other women are not like that. Their hips will spread because, the idea is genetically, Darwinian, evolutionary. The idea is women will have kids one day. And so that's necessary. So your hips will burst, and that's just the way it is. Okay, just accept that. And then here we have your thighs will try to grow together. Your thighs grow together. Okay, this is just trying to get people to understand natural weight gain. Like, look, that's just the realities. You're going to get bigger. Um, and that's healthy. Like your body wants to save fat in the case there is a, famine. Our last 150 years of reasonable uh, secure food security here in America is a fraction of time out of the entire existence of human species being on this earth. And so, evolutionarily, our brains are more on the primitive um, way of functioning than they are in these modern newer world. And so the deep subconscious is still always preparing for famine, for preparing for you might not eat for 2 more days or 3 days, depending if you can find the food. So like bodies are going to put on weight, and they're going to store fat. And estrogen is a natural fat gainer. It literally, more estrogen you have, more fat your body's going to put on your body. So that's just natural. It is what it is. It's genetics. It's hormones. And that's to me what this poem is. This part right here. That's natural. Okay, you're going to put on weight, and that's okay. Soft garden will sprout on your legs, between your legs, upper lip, armpits. This is body hair. Huh. Oh, body hair. What? Body hair has been so villainized. And these three things that have been like villainized. Okay. Width and fat and body hair. All of those that have been villainized are also, though, paired up uh, with these very positive associations. Mermaid's tail, a soft garden. Okay, this is positive. Hey, hey, hey! Don't disappear on me. Positive imagery. This is positive imagery. Uh, who doesn't love mermaids? My daughter, she's obsessed with mermaids. She watches this show called H2O, about these Australian teenage girls who turn into mermaids. And Little Mermaid was a great movie, and so people tend to have a positive association to like mermaids. I mean, you go to the pool and you see kids with like mermaid little tails, okay, and they're like trying to like swim in the water as if with just one unified limb, in the shape of a mermaid's tail. So like these are like positive things. And like a garden's beautiful. Gardens are great. They're pretty, they're nurturing, they're peaceful. My wife goes to her garden after work, every evening, and has her alone time where she rejuvenates in her garden. And so it's natural, it's beautiful, but it's also like, wild, and it's full of life, right? So like this is like positive imagery. Think of your thighs growing together, not growing because they're gaining weight, but because they're forming into a mermaid's tail. Your body hair is not this gross thing that needs to be shaved, plucked, waxed. All right, it is It is a natural garden. And so she's really trying to like replace some of these negative connotations with positive imagery. So while this we can talk about in this poem theme for body positivity, we also talk about imagery. All right, imagery used to change a negative quality to a positive association. All right, that's we get a lot from imagery, and from imagery we get tone. You know. Okay. Sorry, I got interrupted by our librarian. So I don't know exactly. Okay, so here, yeah. All right, I'm back now. But imagery, there's some imagery stuff. Soft garden, mermaid's tail. Okay, positive association. Okay, so then we have these two that really can be discussed. They're almost two separate themes, like really can be discussed individually. I mean, I wouldn't want you to just necessarily talk about both of them because I think that they bring out two different points. You're not just here to be sexy for him. I think there's a couple of things here that's implied here. She's not saying you are not here at all to be sexy for, and by him, I just mean, I think she means like whoever it is that you, him, her, they, the world, uh, Instagram, whatever it is. Okay. Just, I think just is key. I think she here is saying that, look, women do intrinsically, like I don't know if that's intrinsically. I realize I'm like stalling on the spelling. Women do intrinsically, at least some, maybe we'll check this, okay? Some, because there's always a few who don't. Some women do intrinsically like feeling sexy. They do. There is something. I think that it's within cross cultures. There are women who have who often express themselves in a beautiful, sexy manner, and they like this. I mean, like I know that like guys get together and hang out. And they go to the club to like meet chicks. Like guys, they're like, I'm going to a club for chicks. Sure, I'll get like dressed up, for like the chicks. All right. And it's a bad night if they don't meet any chicks. They don't meet any girls. They don't meet any, women and stuff. Right. But like women, there are tons and tons of women who get dressed up for each other. And they get dressed up and they go out as a group, a posse of women. They go to the clubs and they just dance with each other. And like they're not going to hook up with guys, which if they want to, that's them, your body, your choice, whatever. But like they're going out to like dance for the actual act of dancing, and they dance with each other, and they form their little like safe, secure group. And like some of them don't want guys to approach them. Like they're at the club to dance and they want to feel sexy with each other. But like feeling sexy doesn't mean that is sexual activity. There's like a difference. And I think that she is really trying to get to that point here. That like you're not just here to be sexy. Now it's okay to be sexy, but that's not your only purpose. Okay. So like these things that some might feel are not sexy, those things can still be positive parts of who you are, because you're not just here meant to be sexy for other people. This could be you are here to be sexy for yourself, sexy for, I think that there's plenty of people who like to present themselves sexy and like post pictures and stuff, right? But like they're not seeking sexual activity, or they don't even need that. Because it's intrinsic, it's within oneself, and that's okay. I think that's what she is focusing on. That that your own. It's okay to want to please other people, but you're not just here to please other people. You're here to please yourself as well. Um, so you could talk about that. You could also talk about the world begins and ends when you say so. There's this song by this punk rock band called Rancid, and the lyric is, "Hey, little sister, do you know where the power lies? Um, it starts and ends in you." And it's a song where the idea is that this male singer is like singing to either literally his little sister, or he's singing to like just a female friend. And he's saying, don't let the world run you over. Power, it starts and ends in you. So like if you are powerless, that's in a sense you are choosing to be powerless. You are ending it within yourself. Um, if you want power, you can't wait for someone else to give it to you. You have to take it on. It starts in you. So like you are the source of your power, and you are the source of the loss of power. I think is a pretty strong statement. And so to me, like it totally relates to this final line. I think that she's saying the same thing. The world begins and ends when you say so. Um, that's empowering. That is this whole thing about this is all choice. This is about sovereignty. Oh no, sovereignty. Another one of those words that a lot of vowels in there. Okay, I think there's like a silent G. Sovereignty, the right to rule oneself, the right to make one's own decisions and one's own power, and that's like very much like I think what she's saying here. So there's a lot going on in this poem that you could talk about. I would not want you to talk about all of this in one paragraph. That's if you're picking one thing to talk about, okay? Um, because you would essentially be having a lot of claims without any real support or analysis. So you'd pick one thing. Um, theme, body positivity, like specifically body positivity, or a theme of sovereignty, personal choice, freedom of choice, um, or a theme of something dealing with this idea of like you it's okay to want to please other people, but you're also here to please yourself as well. um, if you want to talk about imagery and how she takes some topics that some people see as not good, but then she pairs it with positive imagery in order to create a positive association, to reimagine those things. Oh, big thighs aren't bad. They're beautiful because they're like mermaid's tails. Body hair isn't gross. It's beautiful. It's like a soft garden. So, she does a lot here. You pick whatever it is that you want to pick. All right. But the idea though is that like you want to read your poems, provide, pull out enough stuff to talk about so that way you can pick and choose what it is that you want to discuss. Okay. All right, we're running on 26 minutes. I'm gonna try to hurry up. I might not. I don't. I'm not promising as in depth of analysis of each of these. All right, I want to stick to now just a couple of things I want to discuss. All right, so on trans, Miller Oberman is a trans man. My N's look like M's because I'm just going into the next letter. It's trans man. And so he's writing. It's interesting because I read a little bit about what he was. This is both. It's inspired by a translation that he was doing, a translation of a poem in a different language. But he makes a lot of connection to being a trans person. A trans person is a type of translation as well, going from one to another. That's pretty cool. What I would talk about with on trans is structure. Okay, structure. So you look at this poem, we have one line stanza, two line stanza, two line stanza, three line stanza, and then we have a break. We have this, it's two columns, two columns, it's two columns, it's two columns. And then we have an ending with one word, one line, okay, one column. So this is structure. This is how, this was written in a way purposefully to convey a deeper idea, okay? So this first part, the process of through is ongoing. The earth doesn't seem to move, but sometimes we fall down against it and seem to be briefly aflight on its turning. We were just going. I was just leaving, which is to say coming elsewhere, transient. I was going as I came. The words. All right. So this is about trans people. And I think the process of becoming of who you really are is always ongoing. This right here, look, this is for the non-trans people. Okay, I have parents who are often afraid when I give the kids literature about trans people or we watch film about trans people because these parents are like, oh my god, you're gonna make my kid trans. And the same thing goes with like when we read literature, LGBT literature with a either bi or about gay people. Same thing, parents like, you're gonna turn my kid gay, and my response is, your child is either already gay or already trans or already straight, and you just don't know it. Okay, you might think the earth is standing still, but it's not. We're actually moving. Just because you don't see something does not mean something is not happening. So, hey, non-trans people, there's people in your life who you may not see what's going on inside of them, but that does not mean it's not happening. Okay? You might think the earth is standing still, but you're wrong. You might think your child is straight, but you're wrong. You might think your child is the gender in which he or she or they have been assigned, but you could be wrong, because the same way that you can't see the earth moving, you can't see what's moving within your child. Sorry, parents. Okay, here we were just going. Okay, the duality of trans people. I'm watching a documentary, showing a documentary called Transformer. It's about Janae Kroc and her journey, her trans journey from her prior self. The documentary follows Matt Kroc through his transition into living full time as Janae. And so Janae has been a part of who Matt's reality since Matt was a kid. Matt spoke about being in school and being a football player, but wanting to be a cheerleader instead. And so Janae's always been around. Same thing with rereading this book as a woman by Paula. So Paula writes about being Paul and how when Paul was little, Paul was always there. She was always there. So this we can be the duality. Okay. So this is both Paul and Paula, if I was referring to this person. Okay. I was just leaving, which is to say coming. Okay. Maybe as Paul was leaving, Paula is coming. It's transient. So they're one right here. But then we have this actual coming and going, and we have a division. We have a division. Oops. We have this division. And in this division, we have some what we call binaries. Binaries. Okay. In this, we have male imagery, and we have female imagery. Literature works best with some cliches. Okay. Playing with what associations people have about things. Okay. So, for example, wine. Wine, I drink wine. Okay. And I'm very much a straight, cis male who conforms to generally masculine stereotypes. Okay. In terms of like, I wear dad jeans and I lift and I'm attracted to women, my wife. Okay. Those kind of, I like war movies. All right. So, but that's not to say though that I also like wine and I like these other feminine things in my normal life. There's a lot of things that I like talking and I'm emotional and stuff, right? So like as a real person, I am both. I very much have feminine aspects and I have masculine aspects. Okay, but in literature though, um, uh, these sort of like stereotypes and like generally associated images are usually used in a way to either convey a specific idea that like, okay, this person is this way, or it can be used on purpose to create a intentional contradiction. Okay, so like here, wine is more feminine here in this literature part, all right? But then like this reference to like mugs is beer, and beer, even though my wife drinks beer and I would never use the adjective masculine to describe her. Mug, a beer mug, is more male. All right. So we have some that's going back and forth. All right. We have at the kitchen sink, washing dishes. This is feminine. Even though in real life, I do the dishes at our house. Okay. But this is paired up with armfuls of wood from the splitting stump. And that's masculine. So we have this going back and forth of masculine and feminine. Even though I know women in real life who you can chop wood and they're not masculine women, they just chop wood when they want to fire. But again, in the poem, the intentional imagery is being used to convey this back and forth between the binaries. male imagery and female imagery going back and forth, back and forth. Okay. And transgendering. I was transgendering and drinking the rough red. Okay. Red wine. Red wine is a symbol. Red wine is a symbol for transformation. Oops. Which is why it's being used here. Red wine. It goes from a fruit and it transitions into an alcohol. And it's also a biblical allusion. Jesus turned water into wine. Okay. Red wine, or just wine in general. I mean, it doesn't have to be red. I think red is being used here more reference to blood. Okay, blood, and meaning as in like the body. And wine is really the symbol of transformation, going from a fruit. So this is a symbol, going from a fruit to an alcohol, and then also from water to wine, which then also the wine, this could be very biblical, wine into blood, which equals salvation in terms of the Christian faith. And this person, he could be writing about how like that the hard transition to one's true self through the process is how you find salvation, how you get to a place of peace. I mean, in everything I've read, and all the trans stories that I've read, okay, the authors spoke about how they never had peace in their life until they transitioned, even if their life was going great. In the film that I was just talking about earlier, Transformer, we have a very famous powerlifter named Matt Kroc, who was a professional powerlifter. He was also a pharmacist, and he was very famous in the realm of powerlifting. He was like a superstar. He was like super strong, super big, all that kind of stuff. And he was married to a woman because he was attracted to women. And so, because of his need to express his true self as Janae, even though Janae was still attracted to her wife, they got divorced. Okay, the wife was not okay with this. Janae was dropped from all the powerlifting sponsors. Janae could not compete in the male powerlifting competitions. Janae was fired, or either she was on sabbatical and then couldn't get another job as a pharmacist. And she talks a lot about like her financial state for being trans. But at the same time, though, she's at peace with who she is. She's lost all these things, which is sad, but she's more at peace with who she is than she ever was before she transitioned, even though she had all those things. And Paula writes about says the same thing through her journey. Okay. And that, like, for them, they didn't really feel like they ever had true peace, like salvation until they transitioned. So this usage of red wine throughout this is also could be not just symbolizing transformation, but that one's transition leads to salvation, being saved. Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm not going through all of it again. But it ends with this final, just one slot. Okay, one line. I don't know why this is highlighting. Please don't do that. Okay, one line, one word. Okay, and this is I think this is the trans person after transition, post transition. Okay, All right, that's all I really have time to go. I don't want to, this has been 41 minutes already. And so I would love to go. This poem down here, uh, The Year My Grandfather Was Born, is a wonderful poem that really tries to put into context theme here. Okay. We are not that far removed from slavery. The writer here, Clint Smith, who was like my age, his grandfather was born just 60 years after slavery, which meant that like his grandfather's grandfather could have been a slave, meaning Clint Smith, so my age, could have spoken to his grandfather, talked to his grandfather, and his grandfather was alive at the same time his grandfather had been a slave, had at one time had been a slave. So his grandfather could give him first hand account about being a slave, and then Clint Smith's grandfather could have told Clint Smith about that. So like Clint Smith, who is probably born like in the 80s, all right, is is still connected to a person who could give, real details about slavery. So one person removed. All right. So, like we talk about like, can we stop talking about all this, racism in America? And okay, or are we over it now? Aren't we over it now? And it's like, in the long span of time, it was not that long ago. Okay. And I think his poem is really trying to like emphasize that people want to sweep the conversation under the rug too soon. But I don't have time for that. I'm sorry. It's 43 minutes, right? You got other things to do. You've probably paused this like 8 times and gone and done other stuff. So, I mean, some of you might have ran a 10K just listening to this podcast. It's not a podcast even. It's a lecture on YouTube. So, okay, I'm done. If you have any questions, real fast. So you need to download the outline document. Okay. Fill in all this stuff: last name, first last name, my name, class, due date, whatever that is. And you need to hear the 3 poems, title the poem that you are going to write about. So let's say the year my grandfather was born. You're going to discuss this. Put that there. By Clint Smith. And you are going to, the element that you're going to be discussing is, let's say, theme. You want to talk about the theme. What are you trying to say? Theme. And you're like, my primary source quote. That's a quote from the poem. You really want to talk about the year my grandfather was born, slavery had ended 6 decades ago. That's your main. The year my grandfather was born, ellipses, because there's lines in between. Slavery had ended 6 decades ago. Something like that. Okay. Oops. Now, when you quote a poem, okay, look, this is the end of born is the end of the line. All right, and then it begins with slavery. So on your here, the year my grandfather was born, that's the end of the line. I do a forward slash. And then I need to capitalize this S because in the poem, this S is capitalized. Slavery had ended 6 decades ago. And also, you need to do line numbers. So what you should do is take the poem. I'm going to go to my other sheet because I don't want this to, the annotations might mess it up. what you want to do is go to the poem, highlight it, go to this numbering, and number it. Okay, delete that one. All right. The first line of the poem should have a 1 next to it. When you cite a poem, you have to cite the page number. I'm sorry, line number, the quotes. So this is line 1, and then this is line 4. So on your outline, primary source quote, the year my grandfather was born. Okay, right here at the end of born, you would put 1. Slavery had ended 6 decades ago. And then you would put 4. Line 1 and line 4. Okay. Now, if I had every line, I had all 4 lines, I had this line and the next 2 lines, and then the 4th line, then I would just down here, I would just put 1 through 4. But I skipped though. See that this ellipses means that I skipped some lines. So I skipped from line 1 to line 4. So therefore those are separate. Okay. Now listen, for each of the poems that you're doing, you have to find a source. You got to find a source to apply to your analysis. Like this theme is on how current, how current racism still is. Okay, slavery. But I would need to find a source where someone is talking about this theme, not about the poem, but about how someone trying to get it to understand the perspective, how we're not that far removed from slavery, and so therefore we can't expect racism to just be over. All right, poem 2. So the second poem I was going to do is What They Don't Want You to Know by Amanda Lovelace. Copy that, put in my outline, do the same thing. Put it here. Element. I'm going to discuss imagery. The quotes I'm going to use. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to talk about I'm going to do these. I'm going to copy those. Go to my outline. Paste. Okay. Okay. Now I can do this in one full sentence by putting this backslash here. Your thighs will try to grow together. Slash. Like a mermaid's tail. Then a soft garden. Slash. Try to sprout on your legs. Okay. So those are my 2 primary sources. Now I need to cite the line numbers. So again, I go here, back to my poem. I'll just highlight the poem, hit this little number button, boom, tells me my line numbers. So I'm doing 4 through 6 and 7 through 9. 4 through 6. And then 7 through 9. Okay. Now I need to find a my image is positive association. Or body positive associations. So like I could find a secondary source quote about body positivity. Okay. And then I would need to put my citation here of my source. And then the same thing with poem number 3. I'm not going to go over it again because we're almost to an hour. All right. But like, if I want to find a quote, let's just say this: the Atlantic or New York Times. These are good sources. Okay. Body positivity article. The New York Times. I can find something. That says the problem body positivity. Ooh, okay. Okay. Why radical body love is thriving on Instagram. Maybe that might be a good source. I can read some of these. If I don't like any of these, then body positivity article, The Atlantic. Americans can't escape long disproven body stereotypes. Okay. So you can find an article that you think fits your the way that it actually supports your idea. Then, in order to get your works cited, if you, in case you forgot, you should go to easybib.com. Okay. So let's say you're going to read this. All right. Let's say you read this, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to use a quote. I'm going to use a quote from this. Then you take the website, copy it, go to EasyBib, go to website, put it in, search. There it is, site, continue. Make sure as a title, okay. Amanda Moles, author, okay, blah, blah, blah. Sounds good. Complete citation. Pause. Okay. So I watched my little free video. I got my citation right here. Amanda Mole, Americans can't escape long disproven body stereotypes. Copy citation. I go back to my outline. Okay. And I put my citation right there. Bad formatting. Let's see. I'm gonna put it right here. There we go. So I have my citation. Let's say I get a quote. Okay. Okay, let's just say this is my quote I'm using. This is all hypothetical. I didn't even read this, but let's just say I go to my outline and I'm going to put it here. New research suggests blah, 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 blah. Okay, quotation mark, and I'm going to put mole. That's my site, that's my source. And there's my citation. So like that's what you need to do for your outline. Okay, you need to have your poems. You need to have your poem, what you're going to discuss about it, a source from the poem. I mean, a quote from the poem, and then you need to go find a source that discusses your topic that you want to apply to your interpretation of your poem, and then provide the citation. I don't want your source to be about the poem that you are discussing. I want it to be about the topic because that's more intellectually difficult. All right, I want you to apply what someone has said about that topic and discuss how it relates to your poem. I don't want you just to regurgitate what other people have said about the poem. Okay, make sure we understand that. You're not finding a quote about Clint Smith. You're finding a quote about racism, or the importance of family, people's lives, whatever it is that you want to discuss, and then you apply it to the poem. Okay. Like, I don't want you to go find a poem, a piece of research about Amanda Lovelace. I want you to find a piece of research that's about the topic that you're discussing. Okay. You're going to be discussing, so like, you might be discussing imagery, and you have a quote. This is the quote you're using from the poem in your paper. And then this is the quote you're going to use in your paper from the article. And this is the citation that you're going to put on your works cited page. We're doing the same thing with this outline as you did with the first outline. Okay, this outline is the first step into actually writing the paper. All right, and then you would have a third poem that you do the same thing for. Don't write anything for conclusion here. I don't care. Introduction, I don't even care if you don't add anything there. You just need to have your 3 poems. What element is being discussed? What are the quotes from the poem? And then what is your quote from your secondary source? And what is that citation? That's what you're doing this week. Okay? And then